Hello guys, once again. New Optic update is here. So I want to take this video to kind of give you an overview of what's out there. It has one very big feature that I think I would hope that most of you will enjoy. And before we get into the update itself, I just want to shout out a few people doing cool stuff on Optic. One guy is Prompt AI on Instagram, Jamie Barrett, has done some pretty cool stuff on Optic. If I just find it here. Yeah, there he has some tests in Blender and so on. And it's always super cool to see other people try kind of the workflow and find new solutions. Then there's Creative Matters. He has tried also like yachts and like trucks with Optic. So really cool to see different categories. Then there's Samuel Seok, big Instagram star, I guess. Has done a lot of stuff with the help of Optic. Like he has a pretty cool workflow of like just getting the base done in Optic and then kind of iterating in Sketch on top of it. And then also there's a Steam design engineer, Zenwo designer, has done also a lot of like different stuff on Optics. It's super cool to see what you guys come up with, and every time I see people using Optic, I'm always happy and also like surprised of different approaches that people have for the tool. Then for the tool itself and the update, there's one minor fix that some of you had mentioned to me, that when you try to subscribe to the tool, you click on the button and nothing happens. There should be a fix for it now. So now when you press it, it kind of loads you to a state that waits for the session to start. It should be fixed now, but if it still doesn't work, please let me know on the Discord, or I mean even on DM on Instagram or something, because I obviously want to fix it for you, but hopefully right now it's fixed. Also, if you tried and you got stuck before, you can also just try to go to the top left and just remove all the cookies and try again. That has fixed it for a couple of guys, but now hopefully it's fixed anyways. Then for the update itself, as you can see, the UI has changed just a tiny bit. There's now 3 tabs on the left, settings, lenses, which I will get into later, and the presets. So presets are now as one of the tabs, just so we can kind of declutter the sidebar, so there's not like a whole list of things, but they're kind of categorized to where they should be. So just to give you a quick overview for the update, the first thing is that the model is kind of upgraded, so now it's more universal and more flexible with stuff you do. So it has a little less of the sketch bias that it had before. It's still very like designy with like nice reflections and so on, but it's a bit more universal. Like if you throw realistic or imagery or like renderings, that it tries to stay within the medium. And it also is more flexible now, so it's slightly less car biased. It obviously still knows how to do cars just as well, but it can also have a better understanding of like, if you give it a robot, what do you do with the robot? Rather than like, oh, it's a robot, how do I throw car features into the robot? So yeah, that's a big thing for the update. Then another big thing for flexibility of the model is that we have now what we call context-aware generation and context-aware model. Every time you throw an image at it, it will have the ability to be aware of what's in the image, and it will adjust the backend, like it will adjust the prompt and so on to match what you're trying to generate with the image. Like if you have this bike here, it will see like, okay, it's a bike, red paint, kind of angular design, flat surfaces. It even goes to that level. Obviously it's not perfect, and like design language is not easily expressible by language, but it has general understanding of that as well. So it will help a lot with cars, but especially with like if you throw a bike, it will see, okay, now you don't want to generate bikes with let's say a side view, or you throw a robot at it, the model will see, okay, you're trying to generate robots, let me adjust the model so we will be more on the robot side rather than try to do car surfacing on robots. So it just adds a lot of flexibility and versatility for the model to generate all variety of stuff more reliably. Then the biggest feature is the ability to train new stuff for the model. You basically just have to provide imagery, and I will show you how this works, but you just have to provide imagery of what you're trying to train. You don't have to label or anything. Everything the app will do automatically. So as long as you have the images, they have some like unified concept behind them. The model will learn that, and then you can use it as an additional slider, much like the inspiration or the shape. You will have a slider for the given concept. Or in this case, in the images, I just showed the model some examples of like group C, and I train it based on that, and then you can make the model like generate more group C aesthetic. Even if you throw a sports car at it, that it wants to turn it into group C, and you will have a slider for it, so then you will have control of how much of the concept will come out. And this feature is called lenses, and that's what the middle tab will be on the menu, which will go in a second. But basically, you can train anything, and it doesn't even have to be cars. In fact, I would be really curious to see training some product design or interior design or stuff like this, because you can literally teach the model anything. But in the example of cars, we can train it on objects. So some, let's say group C in this case, you can train it on group C aesthetic, or you have some form language. So it's not really about like, oh, it's a sedan, it's a type of sedan, or it's a type of hatchback or something like this. It's more about the surfacing. Like, so in this form example, you have like this kind of early 2000 aesthetic with the flat surfacing, shot lines very neatly put, and then you can use that as a lens to make the model be like early 2000s. No matter what your input or anything, it will always wants to do like early 2000s. Or let's say you have your sketch style and you want to bring your sketch style into the model, you can train that with the with lenses, and then you can have a slider for how much of the imagery should be in your sketch style. So that's the new big feature, which I will show you how it works. Just before, I'll just generate with some basic images so you see how the model has changed, and then we'll train an example lens and how to use it, so you'll get a sense of how to use the feature and what you can do with it. Also, before I go in there, if you don't want to have either the context-aware generation or the model version that you prefer, the old one, you can go to preferences and switch it off or switch back to the old model version, and you can find the button in the next to the general tab. So let's just generate something. So I'll just do like 2x model influence 0.75. That's okay. Shape control 0.75. I'll just add some inspiration image so we don't just get like a white image every time. Let's see here. So I just added this like red, also generated with Optic red kind of supercar looking thing as inspiration, and then let's press generate. Bam, it's still not as red as I would like to, but it's quite clean. And like I said earlier, the model tries to be a bit more clean, just slightly less sketchy. You can obviously still do sketchy, but just the point is that like even if you throw realistic images at it, which I'll do next, it will generate something coherent to the medium that you gave it, and then you can still switch between mediums if you want to. Let's do another pass, so we'll get a bit more like realistic details. I'll reduce this to like 0.6, 0.55. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that's good enough for this example. Then maybe I'll just refine it just so we get a nice clean end result. And there we have it. We have just a quick test on the new output. So you can see it still tries to retain like nice reflections and nice shading, but less of the individual brush strokes and stuff. So it's much more universal in that sense. I'll just show the same thing with a actual image as a base. Let's use the CCR, old Koenigsegg. In this case, I will remove the inspiration image. I will go all the way to 0 on the shape control, just so you see what the model does if there's no like, if it has complete freedom on the shape. And let's go to 0.75. So it should still stay on the realm of like supercars and stuff because of the help from the context-aware generation. But now it doesn't have to follow the shapes of the car that much. So let's see what we get with the realistic image. And yeah, here we go. You can see that like we gave it complete freedom for the shape, so it starts to solo, and in fact, it preferred to do a rear view in this case. If you still wanted to generate the front view, just pump up that shape control, so it has to adhere to some of the shapes on the image, and it will generate the front view. But in this case, we gave it complete freedom. This is what we get, and I'll just refine it so you see the result. And here we have the outputs, and yeah, I just wanted to show you so you also see if you use a realistic image that it tries to kind of keep the realistic feel, and that's what I was talking about, the versatility and more clean, consistent output on the new model. And so yeah, that's the main, just for general generation. Now we get into the cool stuff. So we have the tab called lenses here. I have a existing lens here already. I will just delete this, so I'll show you how to train one. While it's still in kind of a testing phase, the limit for lenses is just 1 at the moment. So you can generate 1 lens. You can have a slider for it, but if you want to do another one, you just have to delete the current one and train a new one. As soon as we just make sure everything works perfectly, then you can get to the cooler wild stuff where you can mix your style with a certain object group. So let's say you train a group C with like a sketch style, so you can do sketch style group C stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. So yeah, as soon as we just make sure everything correct, we will pump up those maximum numbers for the lenses, and then you can go even wilder than you can go right now. But now I'll just show you how to do one lens. Just open lenses, and there's the button there. It opens the UI to train a lens. And as you can see, you have the data set. So here you gather all your like unified images of what you want to train. And on the right, you have just a setup. And like I said, it's super simple. You just put a name for your project, just so you know what you're trying to train. Then you have training method. You have general and biased. So in most cases, you can just go with general, because it will just take your imagery. It will try to learn the patterns, and every time from that point on, it sees those features in images, it will transform them based on the lens. The other training method is biased, and you want to use biased if you want to force the model to really use the features that it sees in the training in literally anything. If you just wanted to train it like to do better at group C material and you're doing a lot of group C sketches, you would just train with general. But with biased, it really tries to force the group C aesthetic into everything. So even if you were doing sedans or hatchbacks or you name it, it will be biased, hence the name. It will be biased to generate within the learning. So you can try with both general and biased to kind of see what the difference is and what you're looking for in your generations, but that's the gist of both of the options. You have to provide 10 to 50 images to do the training, and obviously the trainings have to have some sort of unified concept. If I just pull up the example dataset here, so I just drag and drop the dataset here, I have 27 images of this demo car we did. So you see the dataset, it just has a bunch of different views of the same car. I also added different colors, because that will teach the model that what we're trying to teach is not inherently a specific color. So if the dataset was completely, let's say, orange, that the model would learn that what the thing you're trying to teach should always be orange, which it shouldn't. And so I threw a different colors there. I also, just to make sure, I threw a different environment. So again, you kind of have to be wary of what you're teaching, because if all your images are in the studio, then that's also part of the thing you're teaching to the model. It will see, okay, that's kind of the studio lighting you're trying to teach, as well as the car. That's why if you throw different environments, in this case of the object, it will make sure that it knows a little bit of like, oh, if it's shaded outside, it looks like that, or if it's shaded inside. Those are just little like tips if you want to make the model more flexible. It still works if you just do studios, but it will just make it more robust for your generation. So it's always good to kind of think about what you're trying to teach. So yeah, I have the dataset, just a series of images, different angles. So we're teaching what the object looks like in different views. Then I'll just call it like UDIN car, and let's see, I want to really use this in a biased way, so it's really trying to extract all those features in the generations later on. I'll select biased and then just start training, and first it submits all the images, so you just have to wait that all the images are getting uploaded to the training, and then training takes roughly 20 minutes, so you can just close the menu and come back. And once it's finished, you will see it in the lenses tab here. And one thing to note, when you train the lenses, you're not training the model, like you're not training for other people to use your training. You're further training the model just specifically for you, privately for your account. I would just have to wait the 20 minutes, and once it's finished, I'll show you how it works. So now it's ready. Now if I go back here, I have a lens here called UDIN car, and you have a slider for how much you want it in the generation. So let's just, in fact, we can just use this one for now. I think this will be quite strong because it's biased. So I'll go like 0.4. Let's go 2x already. Let's keep the model influence the same. We can reduce the shape controls so we can really see those features that the model wants to add. And you see, you really start to see those features. Even the wheels start to be like what we trained it for. Also, the body side is just this clean shape. Like in this case, maybe I just wanted to try the aesthetic of the demo car we did with mid-engine proportion. So that's a little experiment you can do. Then if we take something else here, let's say I have this as input. Let's do the same thing again. I don't even change the settings. Look like it was quite balanced the way it was when it generate. So you see, you start to see those features that we have on the demo car. We can even go stronger. And actually, the interesting fact is like even the wheels start to have this, even though the designs are the same, it has to have those features that the training had. So get a lot of interesting in-betweens, and you can get a lot of new ideas just from blending and training stuff and mix and mashing different cool things you want to do. You can start to see that it has the vibe of the demo, but because we're not at one and like giving it a lot of freedom to really go back to the original model, we get a lot of cool solutions for and new ideas of what it could be. Like if I push this even stronger, I go back to the previous one and I push this even more. So let's go at 0.7. Maybe this is too strong, but let's see. And bam, you start to see that now the cabin is already looking like the same, but because we have like shape control still has some influence, it will still try to keep the proportion of the original one, which is pretty cool. Like I can already get a lot of ideas of like maybe I want to do something else, or maybe I want to do another model with the same aesthetic. I can use that training to influence my new generations. And you can see that we didn't have environments like this in the generations, but because we're planning stuff together, you have a completely new environment. Still looks very coherent, and like I really like the fact that it really understood the cleanness I had on the demo car, and it translates to the output, and you start to have these features that are not full on what it was, but what's super cool is that it finds within the restrictions, it finds new solutions to fit all those requirements of like it should look quite a bit like the original car, but take a bit of the shape influence from the input image. And so you get a lot of interesting solutions. And especially once we allow for you to use multiple lenses at the same time. So you have one for the car type, one for your style you want to produce, one for form language. And then you can mix them with the inspiration, you mix the input. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff we can do. Just as a last thing, I'll just refine it so we get a nice clean output. Here we go, and I'll download it so we'll see it in big. So yeah, you can see that like we get a lot of those features in the image, but with kind of different blends of the input image and shape control of the input image. Let's just try one more, the final one. Let's say I have this, which is much less like a supercar that fits into the proportion of the lens that we trained. Let's see how it handles being in this proportion. Maybe we get some pretty cool inspiration here. I go back to 0.4 to start with, Otherwise, the settings look pretty good. So let's generate this. Here we go. Also a cool little detail. You have like the center exhausts. We had on the demo car, we had like those two exhausts on top of each other, but in this case, it's kind of a smaller package. The diffuser is smaller, so it just generated like a cool little center exhaust there. So yeah, that's the update. I think super exciting for me as a designer because it just gives me so much more freedom and opportunity to really be specific about what I want to create and being able to be unique in the outputs, because you can literally teach it anything and you can be as specific as you want with the generations. So if you guys like what you're seeing and you want to try and you want to support our development for this, you can subscribe at udinbv.com, and we'll catch you on the next update. Ciao.